everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here, taking a look at the DRF Wednesday race of the day. It is race 8 at Horseshoe Indianapolis. This one, a starter optional claiming race going the 1 mile distance on the turf course with a full, actually oversubscribed field signed on, 12 able to participate in the main body of this field on the turf. With this being the race of the day, do note you can get free past performances for this race in every race of the day. Just go to that race of the day page on DRF.com, set up a free account. It's very easy to do, and you get free all access past performances for every single one of these races of the day. Well, Mike, we're coming off the Kentucky Derby. I know as handicappers, we pour so much of ourselves into handicapping those impossible cards on Derby Saturday at Churchill. And when I was looking up the best race to do for this Wednesday race of the day, this race at Horseshoe Indy kind of stuck out to me. But actually sitting down to handicap it, I don't know about you, I was starting to feel a bit of that Derby hangover.
Yeah, I'll be honest, David. When you sent the schedule out yesterday, I looked at this race. I gave it one pass, and I was like, I'm not looking at this tonight. I will wait. I came back to it this morning and got through it, though. You know what, though? The longer I looked at it, I think you picked a pretty good one here, though. This is a really competitive race. And I don't know who's going to be the favorite here. I think that could go to a lot of different horses. This race is pretty tough.
It's a really fascinating race to handicap. There are a lot of ways to go. Horses coming in from all different directions. A lot of horses coming from that really tough Turfway Park meet, competing on the synthetic that are switching over to turf here. So a lot to discuss. Before we get to the main contenders, let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this race. And Mike, I was a little surprised not to see the fast pace flag showing up for this race, given how large the field was and the fact that it does feel like there are 3 horses who do want to go forward in here, particularly the number 3, Brilliant Journey, who really has only been successful recently when he is sent hard from the gate and secures a clear early lead. So his presence could be a problem for anybody else looking to get forward in this race.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this pace could wind up getting faster. And I think both the 3 and the 4 are kind of in the same boat here. I think these horses both want to be involved right from the start. And so we'll see if one of them is going to, wind up conceding to the other. But I didn't really think that was necessarily going to happen. Even the 10, who I do think is able to take a seat and still run his race. That's a horse who's got a lot of natural speed if they want to use it.
Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1, Silver Quarters, a 9-year-old gelding who's been around for a long time. And for a horse who's 9 years old, been in the same barn for a long time. He started his career with trader Steve Manley and has been with him the entire time, now competing in this $20,000 optional claimer. He is one that is in for the tag here, Mike. Coming off a little bit of a layoff, you basically know what kind of trip this horse is going to get. He doesn't have any early speed. He's going to drop back early, hope that pace heats up, can pick up some pieces at the end. He's got some turf performances in his past that give him a chance to maybe pick up pieces here, but I think he would need some others maybe to not show up with their very best if he were to win off the layoff.
I agree. He's going to need that pace projector to be right and then some, get a nice fast pace going in front of him that he can come running into. He's run several races that I think give him a chance to hit the board here. I don't know if it necessarily means he could come out on top unless he gets really lucky in this race, but I'm not knocking this horse. He's pretty good.
The number 2, Day Tripper, is just trying to find some form from a long time ago, because there was a time going back to 2022, 2023, where he was running some turf races that would give him a bit of a chance here, but it's been a long time since he's put up one of those efforts, Mike, and he's another horse that kind of wants to be forward, and I don't see him getting the lead in this race.
Yeah, I looked at him the same way you did, David. I mean, I just don't want to go back to 2022 to get to a race that makes him competitive.
The number 3, Brilliant Journey, feels like the likely pace setter in this race, especially when you watch that performance too back at Turfway Park, where his jockey came out of the gate riding like it was a quarter horse race to get to the front end. He opened up about 4 on the field before he was able to slow it down into that clubhouse turn, and he led every step of the way. And I guess if he's able to repeat a performance like that on the synthetic, switching over to the turf, he's got a bit of a chance here. And Mike, he hasn't competed on the turf that much over the past couple of seasons, but when he does get on turf, he generally runs pretty well on this surface. I found it tough to assess where he really fit with this field.
I think the surface was the least of my concerns with this horse. And I just don't feel like he's getting loose on the lead in here, David. I do feel like if I thought he was like the lone speed in this race, I'd be really afraid of him in here, I think. Yeah. I don't think he's going to get the trip that he wants against this field.
The number 4, Gewürztraminer, feels like another horse that could be relatively forward in here, as Mike was noting earlier. He's not a need the lead type, but he wants to be forward. He's a horse who gets very keen in the early stages of his races, so he sort of wants to do more than the rider often allows him to do through the first half of his races. We'll take a look at his most recent performance at Oaklawn Park, where he was a winner against Starter Allowance Company. This was, of course, on the dirt, and I think the big question with this horse, Mike, is while he competed pretty well on the turf early in his career. When he switched into the new barn off the claim going back to the middle of 2024, he really started to run far better dirt races than he ever had before. And now the question remains, can he bring that new improved dirt form back to the turf, given that he looked like he was more of a turf horse early on?
Yeah, those are kind of my two concerns I had with him. One is that you just laid out there, David. I really think he might be a better dirt horse now, especially now than he is as a turf horse. And the other thing I just don't like about him is, he feels like he's going to take money in this race, and they're going to be betting him off the good recent dirt form. And I wouldn't take any kind of short price on this horse.
Yeah, that's my problem with him getting bet off races on a different surface. But I will say he's kept some pretty good company recently. I mean, the horses that he faced in that allowance race too back, including Awesome Aaron, who came back to earn a 104 buyer in his next start. Those are stakes quality horses
Yeah.
that he was not disgraced against. The number 5 is Underdressed, a horse that is going first off the claim for the Ray Hernandez barn. And that's significant because while this barn doesn't do great off the claim in general, this horse used to be in this stable for quite a while. It actually ran some really nice races for this prior trainer going back to the middle of 2023, actually just missed in a stakes at Horseshoe Indianapolis back in the summer of 2023, where he earned a 93 buyer. Now, his form has been a little up and down since then for different stables. He does have that 95 buyer that kind of jumps off the page in an off the turf race. He didn't run so well on the turf going back to last summer, Mike, but
Right.
once upon a time, this horse was best on the turf, and maybe he's a little bit intriguing getting back into his old stable.
Yeah, I was trying to stay positive on him. I ultimately couldn't quite get there, David. I would like to use him just because it is the reclaim for this trainer who did really good work with this horse on the grass when he last had him. It's one of those situations where I don't know if I really want to go back 2 years and expect him to still be that horse at this stage of the game. But if he is still that horse, he could really make hay in this race. He can go with these horses with his good race, and he's probably going to be a fair price.
Mike, you mentioned earlier kind of taking multiple passes at this very confusing race to get a handle on it. And I initially dismissed the number 6 Azoy as just being way too slow to be competitive with this field. But when I went back to watch some of his races, particularly the only turf race in August of 2024, which albeit was a maiden claiming event, he ran so much better than the result would indicate that day. He was legitimately 4 to 5 wide around both turns, looked like he was out of gas in mid-stretch, and then somehow found another gear to make it really close in a photo finish at the end of that race. He was clearly best on that day, and he's not gotten back on turf since then, but they have switched him over to synthetic recently. And again, he drew post 11 and post 10 in his last couple of races at Turfway Park, won both of them with extremely wide trips both times, especially last time out, where he again was legitimately 4 wide around both turns. He's been competing against weaker company than this, but this feels like a horse that has kind of really figured out the game lately. And I wonder if he might just finally be getting back on his preferred surface.
Yeah, and maybe, another thing to like about him too, I think in here is he's so much more lightly raced than just about everybody else in this field that I don't think we've seen his best race. And I'm with you. I really liked his only turf race. And I really haven't liked too much that he's done since then, but he's got 3 big wins on the all weather since that turf start. So, maybe I dismissed this horse a little too early too.
The number 7 Risk Manager. He's 8-1 on the morning line. I won't be surprised when he takes a little bit more money than that because he's got that 90 buyer on the turf staring at you, 3 performances back at Fairgrounds. And obviously, a repeat of an effort like that is going to make him awfully tough against this field. I'm just a little bothered by his last couple of races, Mike. He was against a slow pace 2-back, so I can be somewhat forgiving of that one. But I just thought he was really dull in that last race at Fairgrounds. Now coming back in 2 months, he's dropping in for the $20,000 tag. I don't take that as a great sign.
Yeah, I didn't either. And I listen, dropping in class might just be all he needs because obviously he's another one with a top race that just makes him really, really tough in here. The other thing that I didn't like about him, David, is the last time they ran him here on this turf course where, I don't know if you watched that race back or not, but I guess there was an argument to be made that the horse that beat him came up the rail and maybe he didn't see that horse, but I don't know, man. I feel like he's got to win that race. I did not like that loss.
Yeah, he's a little in and out, not the easiest horse to trust, and I won't be surprised, like I said, but he takes a bit more money than that morning line would suggest. The number 8 is Gamer, a horse who got really good over the past few months, but doing so on the synthetic surface at Turfway Park. And Mike, when you watch a lot of racing at Turfway, you can see there are certain horses that just love that surface, and even if they don't have competitive form coming into that meet, they can totally turn things around if they just are real fans of that synthetic going at Turfway, and it feels like that was the case for Gamer. He does have that one turf race last year that makes him competitive, but it was at Mountaineer. I don't know how much I really want to make of that race. And I just don't totally trust this horse to bring that turfway form to Horseshoe Indy on the grass.
Yeah, me either. And just to drive home your point there about how good he's been at Turfway recently, even before they switched him to turf last year, he wins 3 in a row at Turfway on that surface. Then they switch to turf, and he doesn't seem like he's quite as good. And he gets good immediately again when they go back to Turfway. Listen, maybe he'll just bring that form here, run a big race, and beat this field. But I'm kind of hoping he's the favorite because I'm not betting this horse.
Mike, this is a race where it's easy to find angles that are worth discussing on a lot of horses. I didn't have too much to say about the number 9, Go Bally Go, a horse who's generally run shorter than this in recent starts. Just a little cheap, a little slow. I couldn't get there.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, he's one of the horses who feels like he should be even maybe a bigger price than he's going to wind up being. Yeah, I didn't like this horse.
The number 10, Saint in the City, when you look at his recent form, seems all over the place, up and down, inconsistent. But when you start to pick things apart a little bit, you can make excuses for some of the poor efforts. And Mike, you know that this horse's good race gives him a real chance in here because when he upset that field at Churchill Downs in November of last year, he was beating a group that was tougher than this one and did so at a price.
Yeah, and he actually ran really well in that race too, because it seemed like they really wanted the lead with him there. They sort of pressed onto it, and then somebody came running, and he had to let somebody go, sit in the pocket, come back out again, and make a second run in there. I don't think he got lucky at all to beat a really good field that day. And then just even the thing that made me like him even more than that, David, is when he ran on this turf course one start prior to that. I mean, you can go back and watch the replay there, but whoever was riding him that day, he gave this horse no chance to win. And he actually really ran that day too.
I know when you watch back trips like that, you kind of wonder, maybe I should have been handicapping at Churchill Downs on November 2nd when he went off at 19-1 off that no chance trip in his prior race. But he is interesting getting back on the turf here. The number 11 is Tiverton. Another horse is going to be a very big price in this race, and one that I personally had trouble building any kind of case for. He was claimed for just $5,000 during the Turfway Park meet. I guess he's moved forward marginally since then, Mike, but feels like this is a tough level for him.
Yeah, didn't see the race that he's run that made me want to bet him against this field.
And then rounding out the main body of the field on the outside is the number 12 River Redemption, a horse also that's coming from the Turfway Park meet, where he was picking up some pieces in cheaper races on synthetic recently. He did run well on turf last year, but Mike was just doing so against weaker company, $10,000 claimers at Hawthorne.
Yeah, it went 3 for 4 on the turf after these connections claimed him last year, but he was just beating, much weaker competition.
Let's go to our picks for this very difficult 8th race at Horseshoe Indianapolis on Wednesday. And Mike, you're going to go with the number 10 Saint in the City, who I agree with you. If he shows up with his best effort, he might be the one to beat in here.
I thought he kind of was the horse to beat. I suppose he'll probably go favorite in here. It'll be interesting to see how they bet this race, but I just think he's landed in a really good spot here.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to bet this race. I'm not going to be surprised when Gewürztraminer goes favorite just because he's got that strong form, albeit on a different surface. I do have him in there, but I don't totally trust him, like we said earlier, to switch that form to turf. I considered the 5 under dress, but I ultimately was swayed by those difficult trips that the number 6 Azoy had to endure. He's going to need to improve to win a race like this, but I feel like he's better than a lot of handicappers are going to give him credit for coming in here and just getting back on what I believe is his preferred surface turf. So 6-5, 4-10 for me, and 10-12. 5-7 for Mike in the DRF Wednesday race of the day. Good luck if you're playing the races later this week.